Title: The Last Goodbye. The Infinite Wait. Sara had always been a family woman. She had grown up in a house full of love and laughter, surrounded by her mother, her father, and her younger brother Lucas. However, life has a way of taking unexpected turns, and sometimes those turns leave us breathless. When Sara met Ben, she felt as if her whole world had a new purpose. Ben was different, charismatic, attentive, and with a smile that could brighten the greyest day. In their first meeting, at a party of mutual friends, Ben looked at her with an intensity that made her feel as if he knew her all his life. It was love at first sight. They got married 2 years later in a simple but meaningful ceremony. Sara had found her soulmate, and together, they began to build their life, full of dreams and promises. The silent illness? Sara and Ben's life took a turn when Ben began to feel unwell. At first, it was something small: excessive tiredness, sesivo, constant headaches, but over time, the symptoms became more severe. After multiple tests and hospital visits, doctors finally gave a diagnosis: cancer in an advanced stage. Sara was paralyzed. The love of her life, the man with whom she had planned everything, was crumbling before her. The news was such a hard blow that, at that moment, the world stopped making sense. Everything that she had built with Ben, her whole life together, seemed to crumble. Ben, however, tried to stay positive, always worried about Sara and about she would face what was to come. She said she was going to heal, that she would fight to the end, but every day, tiredness and pain took over more of her body. The long farewell, the months, the days passed, and Ben's cancer advanced rapidly. Sara spent every day with him, caring for him with all her being. The nights in which Ben could barely sleep, the times his body trembled with pain, and the conversations they shared about the future became the most painful memories for Sara. One day, while Ben was lying in bed, barely able to speak, she took his hand. "Hey, Sara, promise me something, Sara," he said in a weak voice. "Promise me that you will move on, that you will not get trapped in the pain, that you will live for both of us." Sara, with tears falling down her face, nodded. "Tio, I promise you, Ben. I promise you that I will live and that I will never forget what we have had. The last goodbye." The afternoon Ben passed away. The sun was shining as if nothing was happening. Sara was sitting there at his side, holding his hand when he finally stopped breathing. It was such a quiet, such a painful moment that Sara thought her heart had stopped too. The funeral was small. No, only the closest family and a few friends. Sara, seeing Ben's coffin slowly descend to the ground, felt as if she were short of breath. She had loved this man with all her being, and now she had to say goodbye. Upon arriving home that night, Sara allowed herself to cry. She cried for what she had lost, for what would not be. She cried for all the promises that could no longer be kept, for the dreams rotos que se esfumaron con la muerte de Ben. Pero en su corazón también había una pequeña chispa de esperanza. La promesa que le había hecho a Ben seguía viva en ella. A new beginning. The days they went through constant pain, but little by little, Sara began to understand what Ben had meant with his promise. It wasn't about forgetting or ceasing to love. It was about moving on, and to find the strength to continue living, even though he was no longer there to share it. Sara began to dedicate herself to her passion for photography, something she had always put aside because of the responsibilities of her life with Ben. She realized that, despite the pain, life continued, and there were beautiful moments worth capturing. 1 year after Ben's death, they decided to take a trip to the beach, a place they had always dreamed of going together. While walking along the shore, with the sun setting on the horizon, he took a picture of the sea, a perfect image. At that moment, she understood that, although Ben was no longer there, his love would continue guiding her, giving her strength to continue. The wind caressed her face, and, for a second, Sara felt Ben's presence, as if he were there, hugging her, telling her that everything would be all right. End.